Denise, are you there?
Yes, David, I am.
That's okay. I was just checking, make sure that everybody can hear me. Thank you. Do you want me to make a start?
Yeah, that would be great.
So the first thing I have here is notice and summons of meeting. Can you do that?
No problem, Chair. Good afternoon, members. You're hereby summoned to attend the bi-monthly meeting of the Assurance, Audit and Risk Committee to be held remotely on Monday the 15th of February at 4 p.m. I'll just take the roll. Councillor Sean Carr.
Here.
Councillor Gary Donnelly.
And sure, Denise.
Thanks, Gary. Councillor Emmett Doyle.
Here, Denise.
Emmett. Councillor Mary Durkin.
She's running late, Denise, but she will be joining us.
No problem, Martin. Thank you. Alderman Darren Guy.
Here, Denise.
Councillor Dan Kelly.
Denise.
Alderman Keith Kerrigan.
Denise, here.
Councillor Patricia Logue.
She's put it on the chat there that she's here. I think she's on the phone, Denise.
Yeah, I see her there on mute. Thanks. Councillor Emma McCann. Thanks. Councillor Keir Maguire. Councillor Jim McKeever.
Here, Denise.
I have apologies from Councillor Philip McKinney. Alderman David Ramsey.
Here.
Councillor Martin Riley.
Denise.
Thanks, members. I'll hand you back to the chair. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Denise. Everyone's very welcome to the meeting today. Thank you very much. I would like to, this is a statement of remote meetings. I would like to remind everyone who is in remote attendance that this meeting will be broadcast live via the Council's YouTube channel and will be available for viewing by the public and media. The broadcast will also be available for repeated viewing at a later date. This broadcast may be terminated or suspended in accordance with Council protocol. By participating in this meeting, you're consenting to being filmed and to the use and storage of those images for broadcasting or training purposes and for the purpose of keeping historical records and making those records available to the public. A copy of Council privacy notice may be found on the Council website. Thank you. That's the remote meeting. So the first thing now, item 5, chairperson's business. I don't have any indicated speakers for chairperson's business until confidential. Number 6 is matters arising from open minutes of Assurance, Audit and Risk Committee held on the 17th of December. Okay, Emmett is in there.
Thank you, Chair. Just looking really for to see if we've got any update on that. Just I know that the last time when we discussed it around tendering, for example, it was we didn't have much information about what was going to come out of Brexit or what way our policies would be formulated. So just really looking to see if we've got any further update on that, please.
Okay, Denise, is there any further update?
Thanks, Chair. Thanks, Councillor Doyle. We are part of a Brexit Task and Finish working group, which is chaired by a Chief Executive for Mid and East Antrim Council. All the councils are represented in that working group, and we're working through all the issues that are in relation to Brexit at the minute, in particular in relation to tendering and procurement. There's no significant change there at the minute. We're still required to comply with everything that was there in relation to the ODU, but we're currently working through all that, and as changes materialise, our procedures will be updated then at that stage.
Thank you, Denise. And Emmett, you're happy enough with that, Councillor Doyle?
Yep, thanks, Chair.
Sorry, I need to go back. I need a proposer and seconder for the minutes for accuracy first.
Happy to propose, Chair.
Proposed by Councillor Doyle.
Darren Guy.
Seconded by Councillor Guy, or Alderman Guy. And then matters arising then. I know Emmett's already come on there and 5920. Is there any other matters arising? No. Okay, thank you. That's the minutes passed. So the next one is number 7, which will be taken by, is Brona here from the audit, from mine, Denise, you were saying that Brona?
Chair, we've got Colette Kane here from the audit office, the director.
Colette, sorry, that's here, right. Colette, does she want to take number 7?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Hopefully you can hear
Okay,
me.
thank you. Go ahead, Colette.
So, yes, so this is the final report to those charged with governance. Members will remember at the last audit committee in December, I tabled the draft report to those charged with governance. Since then, the local government auditor has certified the financial statements for the council on the 21st of December. And we've received back then the comments from council officers in respect of the 9 recommendations we made in that report. I'm very happy to say that all of them have been accepted or partially accepted. And indeed, also I'm very happy to say that a number of the recommendations are already being implemented or are currently being in transit for being implemented very soon. So I'm happy to take any comments on that document.
Okay, thank you very much, Colette. Has anyone got any questions or any comments, or anybody want to propose a recommendation there that members are asked to approve the report to those charged with governance for Derry City and Strabane District Council for the year 31st of March 2020? Have we a proposer?
I'll propose, Chair.
Sorry, that was Councillor Doyle there. And who seconded?
Seconded, Alderman Kerrigan.
Alderman Kerrigan, thank you. Move on now to number 8, which again is Colette, I think.
Yes, thank you, Chair. So
Okay.
if we can take number 8 and 9 together, Chair, if you don't mind. So because
Yeah,
they're
that's
both
fine,
to do
no
with
problem.
the Northwest Regional Waste Management Group. So we completed the audit, and actually the local government auditor also signed those accounts off on the 21st of December. There were no recommendations made in the report to those charged with governance, which is an excellent result. And then as a consequence of that, we produced the annual audit letter. Now, just to remind members that the annual audit letter will be put onto the council website, and therefore it's available for the public. But there's no contentious matters within the annual audit letter either. So I'm happy to take any questions on either 8 or 9.
Okay, folks, anyone want to take any questions or any proposer and seconder?
Chair, it's Martin Riley here from the SDLP. Thanks, Colette, for that. That's very good news. So well done to everybody involved. Happy to propose it, Chair.
Thank you very much. And seconder?
Second, Chair. Patricia.
Sorry, who was that?
Patricia.
Okay, Patricia. Thank you for that, and thank you very much, Colette, for them reports.
Can I chip in here, Chair?
Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead, Mr.
I just wanted just a question, really. We have had a situation for some time, actually, whereby there are only 2 firms, as I understand it, available to us to bid for waste management services in Derry and Strabane or Causeway Coast and Glens. I mean, is that still the situation? And is there any thought of changing that? Let me explain to you what I mean. It seems to me sort of that we're losing out in that, in effect, we have an unstated monopoly here. Because as I understand it, there's no difference really, no material difference between the bids made by one of these 2 companies. They've got us over a barrel, and we're not the only ones to find ourselves in that position. And indeed, it's not just a problem in the north. Now, I'm just looking for reaction to the suggestion that one way out of this would be to bring waste management in-house, as it were, sort of, and not have it sort of privatized and outside contractors bidding for it. I don't think we had some of the problems that we have now when this was sort of a local government service rather than a service for which local government sought bids from private companies. Sort of, and I would hope to move something about that. Perhaps it would have to be full council, and indeed, sort of, this would have to go through Stormont. But my question is, be open about it. I'm raising it mainly to start a conversation on this, or to put it into the minds of members that this is something that we ought to be discussing. I'll certainly be bringing it up again. So if I'm interested, has there been any thought that is given to that sort of about we have two contenders giving sort of similar bids for a very vital and important, this is not an optional extra for our council or any other council. I think it should be brought within the public service, local government service.
Councillor McCann, thank you for that. It's similar to the situation we have with natural gas, where we have three companies, and they agree to divide the country basically between them. This is something, as I say, if you want us, obviously, to bring a motion in, and at the end of the day, there is absolutely no problem with scoping something that could actually be of benefit to our ratepayers. So I'll ask the officers to take note of that, and I look forward to your motion going to council. Thank you, Councillor McCann.
Thank you very much. Thanks.
Chair, can I come in?
Go ahead there. Sorry, Councillor.
Chair, I think it's a very good point that Councillor McCann has brought up there. But
I'm losing you there.
Chair, could I come in there too? Just as a matter, I have a wild bad reception. I'm picking up nobody. Councillor McCann, nearly everything.
Yeah, I take it we've lost Councillor Donnelly, have we?
Back here, Chair. I'm using my mobile hotspot, but I'm just thinking, is it possible to do that, and maybe could a report come from officers?
Yeah, that's the thing. If this goes to council as Councillor McCann said, it would be obviously then there'd be a scoping exercise then. To be honest, it probably needs to go through Environment and Regeneration Committee. It's something probably needs to be brought to that. And Councillor McCann, I'm not sure if you're on that committee, but if not, I'm sure we could get somebody to raise it for you and then take it to council then.
I am indeed on it, and I will raise it there to try and take that route to council. To be honest with you, I wasn't going to bring it up until I spotted it on the agenda here, which is why I hadn't given notice of it. Thanks very much indeed.
Okay, Councillor Donnelly, you happy with that?
Yeah.
Okay, and Alderman Guy, were you looking in there?
No, I've never heard a word really of what Councillor McCann said because it was breaking up, but sorry, I heard the last bit there.
Basically, what's going to happen is through Environment and Regeneration, he's going to ask for possible scoping exercise of a scenario like bringing all our waste services into council ourselves and not having it subbed out to all our contractors because he believes there's a bit of monopoly because there's only two companies. That's the best way I can explain it at the moment for you. Is that okay?
Yeah, I totally agree with Councillor McCann on that. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, no bother. Thank you. So we everybody happy enough now to move on? Okay, so the next thing is item 10, and that's Anne-Marie, please. That's the corporate risk register. Have we lost Anne-Marie? Seems we've lost Anne-Marie, have we? Could somebody else maybe help us with that, or will we leave it just till she comes back? Okay, we move on to number 11, sure, and we'll come back to that. Number 11.
Sorry, Chair, Anne-Marie's just going to take that now. She's going to use my computer here, so she is. Sorry for that. Okay. So hold on, she's just going across here. 1 wee second.
No more, Anne-Marie.
Can you not hear anything? No. Sorry about that, Chair.
Okay.
The purpose of this report is to present Council's corporate risk register and details of the latest reviews completed. The corporate risk register was last presented to this committee back in July 2020. Obviously, all the risks on the register are subject to continual review by management, but the corporate risk register pulls everything together into a formal document which is reviewed quarterly by the SLT. So the report attached there summarises Council's current critical and high scoring corporate risks. The report also includes details of the most recent reviews that have been completed. Since the last report came to committee, there's been no significant change to the risks that are included on the register, although the controls have been updated following the reviews by senior leadership team. So the following risks remain critical. The following two risks remain critical on the register, and that is the medium to long-term viability of the City of Derry Airport, and then also the inability to ensure the future financial stability of Council beyond March 2021. The remaining risks on the register or on the report are high scoring, and the corporate risk register summarises the key sources of assurance and controls which are in place to manage the risks. So I don't need to go through every risk in detail, but happy to take any comments or questions on that.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Anne-Marie, for that. We have, first of all, we have Derek, Alderman Hussey, and Councillor Doyle is after him. And it's item 10.3.3.1, is that correct?
That's right. I'm not a member of the committee, so thank you for letting me in.
No problem.
The medium to long-term viability of City of Derry Airport. I've mentioned this before. York Aviation have been engaged to undertake a study as to the future viability of City of Derry Airport. Has that been taken into consideration by council officers? Has it come to council officers yet? I know that it has gone to the Assembly, whether it's to the Minister or to committee, I'm not sure. But that study by York Aviation is directly relevant to 3.3.1 as to the long-term viability. So I'm wondering, has that been taken on board anywhere internally by council? I also have a query on 3.5, but with your permission, Chair, I'll leave it at this stage because that could be quite a complicated answer. I'm not sure. I'll come back on 3.5 if I have your permission later on, Chair. Thank you.
Okay. Well, I think we all know that without major government intervention going forward, the airport is in serious difficulty, and that's the reason why it is the highest risk score we have. But is there any officers want to come in on that question?
I'll ask Denise to comment on that because she'll have the most up-to-date position.
Okay,
sorry,
thank you.
Sorry, Alfie's here. Sorry, Alfie will comment on that. Thank you.
Good. Okay, Alfie.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Alderman Hussey. The York Aviation report has been completed. The purpose of the report was basically to inform all the options available to the airport. It will now form part of the business case. So the York Aviation report is an essential component of the business case and very much informs the business case. That business case is almost complete and will come before council in the next few weeks once complete. And it's obviously a critical case for longer term sustainability, and that we need government support to assist us with the airport. So the York Aviation report has been completed and it will form an essential component of the business case which will come before you in the coming weeks.
Thank you very much, Alfie. Happy enough with that, Alderman?
Thank you, Chair. And I presume the recommendations from the York Aviation study will also be available to council members. I'm not sure, but obviously it's forming, it's being considered and brought in to all of council's considerations going forward, so that's welcome. I have 3.5, but I can wait on that, Chair.
Okay, Councillor Doyle.
Thanks, Chair. Just on the Brexit aspect of the risk register, I noticed that there was mention there of a local government liaison officer. Would it be possible to see some of the reports that are being fed back Obviously, there are a lot of issues that are being negatively affected as a result of Brexit, and I think it would be good for members to have a look at those to ensure that those concerns are being fully reported. The other aspect of it is, Chair, and I wasn't too sure about raising this, but because I do see, council approach to climate change there as a risk, I really do think, given recent motions that were passed at council, that the mental health of our citizens should be registered on the risk register, because obviously there are knock-on effects there with regards to general health. There are knock-on effects there with regards to employment, and a range of other issues. We have set down in the motions that were passed very specific items with regards to outcomes, and I'd like to see that reflected on the risk register, because although it's a corporate risk register, I do think in the long term, and haven't seen this over many years, I think it's fair to say that it does feed into a lot of the corporate tasks that we are asking council to fulfil, given that it affects our ratepayers on a personal basis. So I'd like to get some thoughts maybe from Denise on including that, but I do think because it's so wide ranging that we should have it registered. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor. Denise?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Thanks, Councillor Doyle. Firstly, in relation to the Brexit query that you raised, Councillor Doyle, as I said, we are a member of the Brexit Task Force Working Group, and what we are doing at the minute is we are pulling together a report to present to members in the coming weeks in relation to the work that group is carrying out and all its considerations. So again, that will come to you in the coming weeks. And as I said, that group, there's a representative from all councils on it. So we're hoping that the same type of report will go to every council. So we're working on that at the minute, and we'll bring that to you as soon as that's ready. In relation to the climate change and the mental health of our citizens, we'll take those comments away, Councillor Doyle, and consider how they're best to be included, if you're happy enough with that, and we'll come back to you on that one, but we'll absolutely consider those. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Denise. I see Councillor Durkin, Mary Durkin, is now online.
Sorry, Chair, can I just jump on for a wee second? I just want to get a clarification. Denise, thanks for those. It's mainly just in terms of the report that's coming to members. I noted there was three things that I had written down: the funding unit report, the local government liaison officer work plan, I suppose, and the service review reports. All of those would be, some aspect of those would, I think, be interesting just to see what kind of struggles staff and officers are up against in implementing our work plans. Thanks.
Yeah, that's no problem.
Okay, thank you. Councillor McCann.
Yeah, I think we've had all levels and committees of the council, in the relatively brief period that I've been here, discussions about the airport and the cost of it, and I proceed with it and so forth. I think there is it's more and more born in me the more I read about climate change. The more I learn about it, the more I learn about the role of aviation, and indeed the role of transport policy generally seems to me to be central to all this. And I'm just wondering, when we're having business cases done and so forth, whether I'm talking about the terms of reference of the business case. And I mean, if I ought to know this and just tell me and I'd say mea culpa and go and find it out for myself. But are the consultants making out the business case, are they asked at any level to discuss whether we should have an airport at all? I mean, personally, I don't believe that there's a case for us having an airport. I think we've reached a stage, where airports, as somebody has mentioned, has become the cathedrals of the 21st century. It used to be that you couldn't be a city unless you had a cathedral. That's what a city meant. Why Salisbury's a city and Hull isn't a city. But now it's airports. You've got to have an airport. I mean, and the argument is made, if you don't have an airport, how are business people going to fly in here and marvel at what we have to? I'm not aware of any investment coming in as a result of our having an airport. I am not aware of any investment being lost because anybody thinks that our airport isn't efficient enough. I believe that we can't preserve all the jobs that have been out there. I'm just giving notice, really, that this argument must be extended, and I will do my best to extend it to the question not only of how we run the airport, but whether, sort of, given the imminence of drastic changes in aviation generally, and given the scale of a climate crisis and the role of aviation in it, that we can't go on simply discussing sort of the practicalities of it without of running an airport itself, without also considering sort of whether we want an airport, whether we need an airport. You know, it's I've travelled from the airport, of course I have, like I imagine everybody is here. But look, if we're going to talk about big projects, sort of big expenditure and so on over the next while, sort of I gather from the newspapers that we are discussing, or somebody is discussing on our behalf, the possibility of a tunnel under the Irish Sea. If we're going to spend a big sort of amount of money and put our faith in the airport, there's other ways of doing this. There are ways, for example, of taking a train from Derry, which would land passengers inside the terminal building at Aldergrove. Sort of, and I'd like to see us getting a scoping exercise, or even in broad terms, having that possibility examined.
Thank you, Councillor McCann. Obviously, we'll take that and we'll note that going forward. The airport is definitely an issue for our council and ratepayers, and we all agree that while the airport is needed and there is roughly 15 million income and of obviously business in the whole of the north west is using it, including Donegal, so it's being used. But we definitely will look at all options going forward. And thank you again, Councillor McCann. And we'll move on now, unless anyone is any. Derek, yeah, Councillor Hussey.
Thank you for allowing me back.
3.5.
3.5, Chair. It was remiss of me not to thank Anne-Marie for the presentation of the report. Thanks, Anne-Marie. 3.5 is really just a general question. Council's risk management strategy, and then we look at the corporate risk register. That's a corporate as an entire full council. We have one committee in council which is autonomous. Is that committee, namely the planning committee, included within the overall corporate risk register? And I'm sort of wanting to take an example. For example, if there was a surcharge issue that arose out of a planning committee decision, would that fall upon all councillors, or would it fall just on those councillors who sit on the planning committee? I suppose it's just a general question with specific regard to the overall corporate risk register and what is actually covered and what isn't covered. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Councillor Hussey, yeah, the corporate risk register would include one overall risk related to planning and the governance structures in place for planning. But because it's such a large document for the purposes of this committee, I've only been reporting on our high and critical score and risks. The corporate risk around planning would be at a lower level on the corporate risk register. So currently, since the COVID pandemic and that, we decided to make the report more sort of succinct and only include those high and critical risks. But we can certainly include the whole register if the committee wishes. So also, as well as the corporate risk register, every service area within council has a risk register in place, which is reported separately to the audit committee. So there would be a service risk register in place for the planning service, and that would detail out all the significant risks within planning, including their governance and the coverage in place for claims and that may arise. So again, that can be brought into audit committee at any time if you so desire.
Anne-Marie, sorry, Chair. I'm not a member of the committee, and I was just making a general query with regard to that. I don't know what the wishes of the committee would be, but certainly would be mine if it's a low risk. I'm just trying to get something straight in my head. Thank you, Chair.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. So I think there's no more indicated speakers on
Chair,
this note. So yeah, sorry.
Sorry, Chair, could I come in? Thanks.
Yeah,
Thank you,
go
Chair.
ahead.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to ask a question in relation to the financial stability risk of the council. Going concern was something raised by and considered by all councils last year, and I was wondering if we could get an update on the financial stability for 21-22. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Brona.
I think Alfie will probably be able to give us that update.
Yep, thank you, Chair. Thankfully, since the last meeting that we discussed this, we have been in receipt of substantial funding from central government, which has sustained our financial position and leaves us in a healthy financial position as we stand currently in the 21-22 or the 2021 financial year. All our losses associated with COVID have been covered, all our income losses, all our additional expenditure pressures. Moving forward beyond 1st of April 2021, obviously that's recurrently is extremely challenging for all businesses, and we're currently looking at all options as part of our current rates process, which will be approved over the next couple of weeks. But the support we've received from government this year has been critical in basically getting us to where we are at the minute, which is a solid financial footing moving forward.
Thank you, Alfie. Brona, you happy enough there?
Yes, thank you for that, Alfie. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Brona. Okay, so moving on now, Una's going to look after number 11, which is the Health, Safety and Wellbeing Committee report.
Thank you, Chair. The purpose of this report is to update members on the discussions at the recent Health, Safety and Wellbeing Committee, which is held on the 12th of January 2021. So this corporate committee meets on a quarterly basis and is chaired by the Chief Executive and attended by the directors and lead officers. So it gives us all an opportunity to look at and scrutinise the ISO 45001 management system. So the main summary report presented and discussed is attached in Appendix F for members to review. The covenant reports were discussed in detail, and as members can appreciate, the COVID-19 crisis formed a significant part of the discussions at the most recent committee meeting, and an update to the senior management on all the current working practices currently implemented within all of our service areas here in Council. We discussed compliance training and some solutions moving forward in relation to the online aspect of compliance training. We reviewed our internal audit programme and the committee discussed the recent review of accident and incidences data for 2020, which is also within this report. The legal update for the organisation was discussed in detail, and the committee discussed projects in relation to control of contractors and additional resources for certification and compliance requirement for Council. And working from home communications was approved for communication to all of Council staff. I'm happy to take any questions that any members might have in relation to the attached documents.
Thank you, Una. I have no indicated speakers so far. No indicated speakers. Can we have...
David, can I come in, sorry?
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Councillor Doyle.
Thanks. There's a couple of things, really. Firstly, the health and safety overview for building control doesn't seem to have been completed. I'm wondering maybe if that's just because of COVID. And two other wee things, if you don't mind. On page 186, there's reference there to musculoskeletal risk. I wouldn't mind even if somebody wants to come back to me privately about what the situation is there, because it's been raised with me as a concern. And what else was there? Yeah, on page 180 there, it mentions traffic issues at Brook Park. I know we're having some discussions around the site there over the next while, but it mentions here about traffic attendance. I'm just wondering if somebody could maybe update us on that, because obviously we're in a process looking at rates and things along those lines. So I think that's pertinent. So if somebody could go back, maybe that'd be handy. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Doyle. Does somebody want to answer them now, or personally with Councillor Leader?
I can give a quick update in relation to a few of those and can come back with more detail in around the DSC risks that you've raised in relation to page 186. But in terms of building control, those reports have since been updated. So as you can appreciate, we're reporting on the last quarter. And since that report has been completed, the building control updates have been received. So those reports are now more detailed. And in relation to the traffic management at Brook Park, that's ongoing in relation to a previous traffic management plan to which council are in the process of reviewing. But I'm happy to come back privately with more detail around that, or if you've got any questions, we can share that traffic management plan if that's helpful.
Thank you very much, Una. You okay with that, Councillor?
Perfect, Chair. Thank you. Thank you, Una.
Okay, thank you. So I don't think of any other indicated speakers. No, I don't. Okay, so we move on now. Thank you, Una, for your report. Move on now to number 12. And that has been taken by James. That's the update on the internal audit plan. Thank you, James.
Thank you, Chair. The purpose of this report is to provide members with an update on the internal audit work carried out recently. The first part of the report covers the work carried out to date by the section to assist the organisation with the challenges associated with the pandemic and then the recovery, such as assisting with the review of the risk registers, carrying out risk and control evaluations in areas as requested by management, and carrying out a review of the fraud risks as recommended in the NIO COVID fraud risks publication. Other work included the further development of the Council's counter-fraud, raising concerns and anti-bribery policy, and the Audit Committee training. The second part of the report covers the progress on the planned audit work. Although audit work has continued, there have been no audits finalised recently. Audit work is taking longer than usual due to obviously the restrictions, but the key priority obviously is the safety of audit staff and officers. However, audit work is continuing and reports will be finalised as soon as possible. There are no financial implications arising from this report, and I will take any comments or questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, James. I have no indicated speakers. Okay. So we asked just to note the content, is that correct? Or I'm on the wrong one, I'm on the internal audit, sorry. Yeah, take note of that. The next one, that is basically all the business we have, unless there's any other business.
Chair, can I just raise one item? In fairness,
yeah, go ahead.
And I know Patricia's here because Patricia actually originally raised it. We discussed it at Business and Culture this week. It's about the contract for events in the coming year. We have about trying to keep those funding, for example, for as a priority for local artists. And it was mentioned at BC that it would go through an audit process. So just want to put that on someone's desk. There seem to be fairly clear views about it. And I say it was Patricia brought it up, but I just had it written down here in case I forgot. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Doyle.
Chair, if I can just come in there to add to Councillor Doyle. Councillor Doyle, just to let you know.
Denise.
Councillor Doyle, just to let you know, that has been brought to our attention and we've been invited to an internal officer working group to have a look at that. So we will be feeding into it and we'll obviously report back then.
Thank you. Happy enough there, Councillor Doyle?
Thanks, Denise. Thanks.
Thank you, Denise. That leaves us.
Yeah, just to thank. Sorry, Chair. Just
right.
to thank Denise for that too as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Patricia. So over to confidential business now. Can somebody indicate whenever we're on confidential?